Hi, my name is Kenny T. On my moment of the week this week on my podcast, I decided to come to Mandevo compound. This is where the famous Independence Stadium is. And today, I came to buy Imbalala, Ifyumbu, and all the rest. Come, let's check it out. German. So last time, what was happening? Adwana Nation. Robson Mwanza. Nice, isn't that? Oh. Ngamaisa mgushita takwa gushita kuri hapo tete. Ntando inga. Mai nchosele kwa kaidi.
Inga pesa batula kwa.
Let's go to Germany. Okay, nipasa kwa tutubiri. Nakandolo ebiri German.
Hello and welcome to my podcast. It's called Kenny T One-on-One Podcast. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell as well, so just in case we post a new episode, you don't miss out on a thing. My guest today is Auntie Millie. She's here on the show to speak about her life, her early life, her business, and everything else social media. Auntie Millie, welcome to my podcast.
Well, thank you so much, Kenny.
I'm very happy to have you. You look so beautiful.
Really? Thank you.
Atuwawama mwana wa mai.
Mwana wa dadina chaya kuipa mani. Skip goes say who died.
Auntie Millie, tell us about your early life. Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
Kamba vambiri kainenzo kumverera njabe pa radio ba Kenny T. Ijaya so having me here on this podcast is something that I've always dreamed of, something that I've always looked forward to. Zikomo.
No, we're happy to have you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your words.
Yeah.
So
my compliments, mvomereza.
You're
well built. Osa nioneramo, ni pasa brother wa.
No sister.
Period. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I'm very grateful that you came. So jumping into the podcast.
Yeah.
Tell us about your early life. Where were you born? Where did you grow up? What kind of a life did you have?
Okay, so I grew up in Lusaka. I was born at the UTH. Then abwana kulira ko makombo ni
Kombo niti.
Counter Square Stage.
Counter Square and Kombo.
Kuja nkumayadi bati. Sininga kula ndingaze kumonga na pa Egypt. Ukuzwa ku Egypt.
Ni good.
Papa side, but down.
But imomuzwa pa Egypt.
Give me a definition of Egypt.
Egypt, they all my pyramids.
Udala, my Egyptians, when zoshita banj kui my Israelites.
Ndiye kombo nili hapa. You always were kombo in Egypt. Is that the one?
Yeah.
Okay. So you grew up in Counter Square.
Yeah, I
with
grew
your
up
parents?
in Counter Square. My mom and dad, my father grew up from the Copperbelt, of course. Mansa, he's from Mbala.
Okay.
From Mansa, he came to Lusaka. And, after staying in Lusaka, Bambo Sevenza Vija, Bapeza Maivanga, and he didn't have anywhere to stay the time he met my mom. So, after Bakondana Vija, my mom used to live with my grandmother. So, she's in love and she's the second born. So what happens, my father decides to marry my mom. And after he marries her, wakukira pa nyumba ya pongos manje. But then Mbala men, bamambwe bamuna, sibamalindira. Bamambwe bamuna sibamalindira kuti mukazi, simabenteno, okay. Otherwise, my father would work so hard such that when he was staying at my grandmother's, he literally took up the whole family and started doing my pieceworky. Then he would take care of the whole entire family to the point where after bachoka kuli wambie banga banakukira kwa one room, and that's where I was born. Yeah. Na chita fast forward. Na badwira kuli wambie banga. And my mother at the time was working as a maid.
So ndio kusachedwa kama mzokambapo.
Exactly.
Okay.
So after my banga vankala naine, you know, she would leave me with my grandmother and go and work, and my father would go and work. So after bagwirika na bablow at that, kukira ka one room ku down kuja kumbio kwa market ka one room
saba
kama njema not kusaba kuja pa market then ichi road
down.
showing that down here kona huko kuja monga kuma evangelical kuja pa side patch bana pesa one room. And I remember growing up, you know, we didn't have a TV. So meaning bananchosa kuja kuliambia banga, because I used to breastfeed from my grandmother's breast when my mom was not there, because she was literally working as a maid. So we moved to the one room, tenzebe TV and things like that. So paneba benzo chitikako vicha so enze naka TV cha mtu ukulu chi TV tenzo kwela na sister wanga, because my father had a concubine before my mom. So banabwa babala mwana, and she ended up dying in childbirth before he met my mom. So vija tenzo kula munga tuma twins vija vaso. So TV bakabotamba ni jakwat mwakwela ako pa mawindo mtambila pa window. That's the type of lifestyle we had. So after bambo chitika batate, he bought his first house in Kaunda Square. And
from one room anabagola nyumba
kungena chabe mu one room, I think panapita chabeka ni 1 year babwa gula chinyumba. Well, my father was business minded like that. And I think when you ask my family members, they'll tell you that I take after my father. I'm my father's brain. My father is in me. I'm literally my dad, but you know what I mean? He would make things happen. Pamene usunga ganzirati bazapanga chintu. Yeah. So he bought a house, a 4-bedroom house, Kaunda Square. Pa police paja. I think 2nd Center Road from the police station, Penzonka ya Posha Paside, next road. Nyumba. And then from there, I remember he started politics. And that is where Simsokwe came up. You know, Mr. Simsokwe. Yeah.
Politics was a political party.
Wenze kusevenza na Kaunda, he was Kaunda's right man.
UNIP, okay.
Yeah, UNIP.
Okay.
Yeah. At the time. So, you know, we had situations where there was that time when he went to Kuma Zaire or Zaire. You call it in English, Zaire and Deveti Zibir. Baenda bachita, you know, dig out batate baba chiluba FTJ. That's it. Stories we're listening pama newspaper. Papa, you're afraid Membe is from the Congo. That was my dad.
Is what Benzo
Chita investigate and bringing them to, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
But how did that impact your life, even as a family?
Well, we grew, you know, I remember my mom being traumatized in situations, because at the time, you know, politics, and my dad is investigating the head of state. You know, so you have you anybody you see, even if they are just standing by the way, you think, oh, maybe it's the cops and things like that. And investigate. I remember vividly when I was young, something panja, and when I read in the newspapers that time, Nenze Palusaka girls, and they were saying Simsokwe, I'm planting in a bomb and things like that.
Panyumba. Yeah,
Panyumba. So it was traumatizing, because I would see how my mom would get agitated and things like that. So politics.
So
you would something that traumatizes me. Yeah.
Was the ending very bad, or?
The ending, well, because the time my dad was dying, Nenze ku mebosho. He took me to a boarding school.
Okay.
And the reason
why
ku Kawambwa.
Okay.
Yeah, past kwa Kazembe. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I remember, because the Mwata Kazembe, their family was married to my mom's young sister. So the Mwata, current Mwata now, you know, we were very close. He was very close to my family, my mom's family, and my dad.
Yeah.
So literally, when we closed school, I would go to the palace and be in the palace, kwa Kazembe, like that.
For the holidays.
Yeah.
Okay. So how many were you in your family?
We were born, I would say 5, because my elder sister Charity, who is a teacher in Kitwe, yeah, I told you the mother passed away during childbirth. So we were born 5, yeah, but then my father had other, you know,
children.
things like that. Yeah. My sisters. So we are 8.
8.
Yeah.
Okay, so after Mebosho, which school did you go to?
Mebosho, my father died in 1999, April 30th. I never forget that day.
I'm sorry.
So I remember the Mwape sending money to the head teacher in Mebosho for me to go to Kazembe at the palace. When I reached there, it was my first time. You know, I see my uncle who was working in the bank here in Lusaka, and then somebody comes and says, you're going to Kazembe at the palace. I don't even know who I'm going to meet there. And then I reach at the palace, you know, Bakapa, so they'll tell you when you reach there, you have to kneel down 3 times. Watota. Yeah. Watota, then waingira muchpango. So after my dad died, I didn't know about it. They just summoned that I'd go to the palace. So when I reached the palace, you know, you know, we had a good life when my dad was alive. We are the type of people who had drivers and cooks like that. So, you know, so when I reached at Kazembe Kuria, the Kapasos told me what to do. But then when I entered the palace and I saw the Mwata seated there, you know, my mindset is my uncle like that. And I ran to him and the Kapasos held me and said,
You tried to go and hug
I
him.
wanted to hug him. And they said, you don't do that. Then the Mwata said, leave her, she's my daughter. And I went and hugged him, not knowing that the reason why I was there actually was for him to tell me my dad had passed away.
I'm so sorry. Was he sick?
Well, because I was in boarding school and I didn't know whether he had gotten sick because I was in boarding school and
it's difficult.
It is.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's all right, Auntie Millie. Moving forward, at what point did you get married? Was it love at first sight?
It was love at first sight because this person that I fell in love with, you know, I remember when I came back from Ebosho, right? So manjeniendo, I had done bad in my 9th grade. So kwenzedi tuendo lembulula mokchakunkula. And I remember getting on a bus with my friend Madaliso and nichakwa tenzo endo serukila pamnali kwenze kwa bus driver amwale, shout out to you tenzo lipila malesi
Wenzo kuchosera ngoni
tichosera ko ijaso ka itsale na change my lollipop. So you know, I got in a bus. I'm getting into this bus now. Na bwana una chidudi chochidari joy na madaliso bwandiniza pakwenda timili the guy is hard. Nenati voi chamene, you know. And I started making noise in the bus. And this guy
mozofuna attention.
Yeah, ka attention. Hapo eralanga na kumbuyo so na bwana mchaira ija kalinso ija.
Kubomdiniza.
Chinenze vegina izo. Mtini zako ija chako na so ija so ya malevozi ya so. We never had a conversation from then. Na seruka pamnali pacha. Ndokwera basi nshiniendo lembula mu vama samsamu. Anso melody boy in makublame ngati unaneka na kukopera ko pa exam ngati sina vile mbule. Yeah. So, melody natina kutomola kavidi olokezi ani mamuza ingani. That's my daughter. So we dropped off at Munali. Taenda chambwa chanlangana na chambwa chandini chandiniza ndemo naendera. It took a year for me to see him again.
So kunzai mnapasana manamba.
Sina tengeko namba iliyonse yo chenze na cell phone chita chimdala chita. Chenze chimdala chenze chimfana patuzwa vinondo ifa mad.
Rich kid.
Tunika chabati ndala maskini vimilomo ati. Chimtanzi toba ngachi kisinge ichi bati mwandi. Mwandi, it's not easy. Temwane na serukira inekeni. Taenda na kuskulu. So now after my dad died, time hiyo ndishinabwerako kumebosho bamai bansakiri akuti manje niende nlembuluwe pacha kunkula. This is a period now that I'm meeting David's father. And I'm a virgin at that time.
What do you mean it's a period you're meeting? Who's David?
My firstborn child. That's David's father.
So the same dude you met on the bus.
He's the father to my ababana wanga walifoa okondewa. Kaidi futi pa Japanese basi kulangana mfeshi vintu hivi.
Kulangana mfeshi kutu nkalibwa?
Ngati ufuna mwamuna. Ni kumulangana mfeshi wazirangana na mfeshi yako mzabala mwana wa bwanji. Mzabala mwana wa bwanji. Napwera navipanga kudala natapa bana wazankala wabwino msochabe what not. So I drop off and I meet him later after 1 year.
Kuti. Where did you meet?
Bakaunda square benze na jingi kwenze Mwale. He was an ambassador. I don't know if it's in the US. So benzo sobera bana minister. Bama ministers. And I remember that time I had my sister, my father's young sister, gave birth to Christine Chisha. She was a journalist at Daily Mail. Na Angela Chimba. So Christine now started working at Daily Mail. So now she was exposed to these rich kids and whatnot. So bamai banitu makagule tomato pakatambalala kaunda square kuja paja pachimtengo. Jemani naendera inavaka inenze kukondo gera sisi jaya so. Naenda kuja kumarkets. Nipitira paka shop ba sister banga bena ngweza na segula kaka shop. Depends on senzira Christine at the time when she was off work. So most of the time when I go to the market, I would go in the shop and, say what's up and things like that. And, my sister was more like, oh, changera vija. Inenenzeka vegin chape kaviri pacha pa my areas.
At what age?
Changere samaning, like nivizi wavonze. So now I go. Most of the time I would get my young sister Lily. I'm sure you've met her. I showed you. Yeah.
Yes.
Lily, ti onpelekezi taenda kumaketi sense chiririn chimfana. Taenda kuja manje na peza chidud Christina Dinizati. Midi na uchimona. Uyu mwana wa bashimonde uyu. Ekala blonga. Boy keni ndishavala nkolo ko paja ma cell phone ayeti dinayo ama smartphone sishkuli dem stage 1 chakwira na phone chibaina mwana waba Mwale. Yeah. Base kafijali na ka blue bed chanchan kanse venaya ali made na bwana kumbukira na timfeshi na iziva. Ninamkumanya hapo mbasi poindole mba exam. So my sister gets me and she says Shimonde BIG come. Uyu ni sister wanga ni Miriam and Miriam this is BIG. Shimonde
is aka BIG.
Yeah. Kaichenze na mvitu wa BIG jaya. So ndalama mwana mai. So manje after Takuma Anapaja, he said, hi, beautiful. And I had never heard a man call me those words, princess, beautiful, and things like that. My mother was busy working. She entered politics, MMD, and she was always busy trying to fend for the family. Yeah, because my mother was a pillar of her family. Yeah, so really didn't get time to hear, she would always be focusing to making us all happy, making sure that we've eaten and things like that. Bakanga tu samba babwera mwana wanga mwamuna so samleka kugwira chibero nchimimba angena. So we grew up with that mindset. You get my point? Yeah, but there was never a conversation where somebody will call you princess, and I hear this BIG guy call me princess, and that's why. Talk my attitude, So it took off from there, and I remember that time, 1999. I was making an end of year party. End of year party. Yeah, the acting in 2000, and I invited them. And he says, I'll be there, princess. And I remember that time I had met a Nigerian guy who I used to date. And I told him, if you want lalas, inesinga kupase kaidi ntine mfana. So kasakire kocha bebe kwenzema ule paja pandamano paja stage 1 kasakire kocha bema ule. Ine kaidi ntine cha bem zako. Mindset ya childishness like that. But I was above age to date. I was just keeping myself. So, I'm dumping out because I fell in love with David's father. So, napanga millennium party, chalira in a dead to the point where that man used to leave Kablonga and sleep outside my yard. wait for me when I wake up. He takes me to school, brings me back home.
How much older was he?
He was only, I think, 2 years different from me, you know. So benzoni ndira ku school kuja ba headmaster kuchitoniitana ninga sugar dad uyu weyabwera
BIG
ku school akulindirira panja Miriam nati madamu ni brother wanga chabe amanindirira, you know. And we took off from there. And I remember he had to take tumbali pajansiriza kaskulu apereka mambale achitavonse, and that's the time that I conceived. After a year of marriage, I conceived my firstborn son, David.
How old were you when you got married?
I think between the age of 18. Yeah.
Okay. And how did that change your life?
It changed my life.
He was pretty young.
Yeah, because I was in love.
Yeah.
He was my first love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everything went on okay? You transitioned from your normal life to marriage life?
Exactly. I transitioned because he was my best friend. You know, we would talk about everything. You know, he was very hardworking. He would make sure that the children are well taken care of. And can you imagine that twale fisanda na fye? Tenzo fisanda na kuipa every after 2 years in shinamimba.
Kusanda na nish?
Kubala chibale bale. Mwana wa dad.
Every 2 years?
Kabiri. Bana bajaba ina age difference yama 2 years. Wate yao. Kenny. Ujamwa muna enzo sebenza. Shimonde. Nipatari.
So then, what led to you, the two of you, you know?
He passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In 2011. You know, and I didn't expect it because I remember going to my prayers. You know how women are in the compounds. And I remember a certain prophet telling me, but na arrow. Yaba shoot up, boom, then he falls down. I prayed about it because I was very prayerful at the time. My marriage young. Very, very prayerful. You know, so after Baniuza prophecy, I went to tell him because I'm a seer like that. I dream things that come to pass.
Oh, really?
You know, so a week before he dies, I dream he had found a house. Ambochiti cannot rely on the dad's properties and things like that. His mom and married somebody else.
Oh, okay.
So there was that commotion. Now this man literally, you know, starts taking care of the wife and the child that he had with that woman. And he forgot about Vana. So, you know, he was starting life, you know, trying to bring himself up and things like that, to the point where first and come 2-roomed house. So now he starts happening, making something out of himself. And the dad sees that, chambo sevenza chimwana changa. He ended up buying us a bus, utuma bus my eyes. And I was a conductor at one time anyway.
Kubasian?
Yeah, basiam nawanga.
Was it easy? Was it something easy for you to do as a woman?
Well, you know, when you're in love, you don't mind. I would get my sister Lily and she you know, would be, you know, yeah.
Someone's already pissed.
Hey, kataxi no mu blue bed. Tienda tiripilisa. So you know, in life,
and also you got that business.
Yeah, you know. So after Ambochiti Kamnawanga, we decided to move to Tachai village. You know Tachai village?
Down kuja.
Opposite Zaf. So before he passed away, before we moved to Tachai village, he came from South Africa and I said, I'm tired. Kaunda square boy. Teti kukeko. So he had found a house. There was a guy called George Omwana Tachai. He had a 2-bedroomed house because the dad had given them allocation to a property. So he says, Munga kukire in Batachai impregnated my mother's young sister. So we had that connection. Eunice, he was more like an uncle, yeah. So he says, I've got a 2-bedroomed house and I want you to move here because my late husband was good with people like that. They just loved him naturally. So that's how we moved to, before he died. Nalo tafuti, abwera Jojo ati nifuna komotoka imunipase yenza mnawan BMW. Nikupasani makizi ya nyumba. So the time that I'm handing over the keys with him, in the dream I wake up and I tell him, ija nyumba ya mwalipira kutachai village nalota landlord abwera tinipase, you know, makizi munipase motoka mtenge nyumba. He didn't take it seriously. He thought I was lying. And says, umalota maningi mapempero kumapapa kwa mene, forget about it. Yeah. So a week later, he traveled to South Africa. I didn't know that he was going to buy a new car because he didn't tell me. So now he goes to South Africa and he buys vima benzi vija latest at the time, yeah? And on his way back, na mvera be brother-in-law anga nitumira phone atu amna vanhu vagwa kuno pa opposite Bwijimfumu. There's a filling station here. Not Puma.
It's a Toto.
Toto. Vagwa mna nati valete kunyumba nishivachokera ku South Africa chokugula motoka. He didn't tell me. It was a surprise. It was a car for me. So bafika kuja maybe na bayenza kunyumba. It only took a week and then he died.
What was the problem?
Benzo sweta cha bemenzo munga ikala. Red. And then ukasha light wazalira ati Miriam namvera moto. Simiako my lights. And then after a week, I remember, I tried to take him to different types of hospitals, you know. And then suddenly we just went to the UTH and he died.
Sorry.
I remember I had gone to get things from home, and when I came back, I had a 3-month-old baby. No, not 3 months, 6. I had a 6-month-old baby and I was breastfeeding. I had to stop breastfeeding because I would go to and fro, go hospital and things like that. And my mother-in-law was there, and he was the only son that my mother-in-law had, so we would exchange like that. And then I remember when I went, when I reached the hospital, right? I found him. He looked at me like this and took out his hand, and I put my hand there and he squeezed it. And later I saw goosebumps coming out of his body like that. And that's how he gave up breathing like that.
Sorry.
Yeah, it was something bad.
So then how did you manage now to navigate through life?
Can I have?
Okay, can we bring something for her?
It was something really hard. Because this is the man that I saw my dad in, and this is the man that I loved and things like that. And after he died, I was really traumatized. My sister was my anchor. My young sister, you've seen her. She was my anchor, and my other sister, she's late. They would always try to, make sure that I'm okay. When you're grown, you don't want to see your mom bring you foodstuffs like that. And I said, what am I going to do, Father? I don't have any assets because we're living for the moment, not knowing that death was going to strike, So I am being a housewife like that. And I told you I get emotional, okay?
I know.
It was hard. It was really hard. And my mother being a widow and but there wasn't much of a choice, So
now, Millie, how did you turn around and be strong and forge
my
ahead?
sisters, Lady, Eunice, my mom, made me strong. I lost so much weight. And I had 4 kids at the time, and I ended up, when you have a heart.
Yeah.
In fact, after he died, now I don't have money, and the landlord is waiting for it,
Yeah.
And then the dream comes to pass. He comes and says, you're a good woman, that your husband was a people person.
Yeah.
I don't want you to go in the streets and start staying with the kids. I want this car that your husband recently bought. I'm giving you the keys to the house. I'm giving you a 2-bedroom house to raise your kids.
So he got the car.
Yeah.
Wow.
and gave me a 2-bedroom house.
Wow.
Yeah. He went to my lawyers. At the time, I didn't have money, but Mwape Zulu, you know Mwape Zulu?
Yeah.
Because we grew up in the
Because
same
Mwape
neighborhood.
grew up in County
Exactly,
Square,
and we were friends then. So Pikirira, Vijava. So, you know, me coming from a rich kind of setup because my father really was making money.
Yeah.
So Tenzo Sobera and Mwape was somebody who was humble. You know, pastor like, very smart guy, very good heart.
Still is humble. Actually.
Yeah. So Mwape, Della, the elder sister, told me, Miri usavutike nabana, because Della was my neighbor in Charleston, Mwape's elder sister. Usiwati Mwape ali ni lawyer. Aza kutandiza in case afuna kucrooking awe muntu ndiye mwana nipasira namba, and I called Mwape and he says, boy, uli bunch. And I told him I didn't have money at the time. So he says, don't worry, I'll help you. You know, and he called my mom, and we were close like that. We grew up together close like that. It pays to be humble. It pays to be good to people. So he came through and we signed our papers with the landlord. I have to wear this.
Yeah, we'll take a break just now so that they touch you up on your makeup.
Yeah, thank you. So that's how we exchanged the car for the house. Mwape did the paperwork, and that's how we came to have a house with my children. And having a house now, Elohim decides now to be these homeless children. 18-year-old girl, I'm going out, I find an 18-year-old girl lingering in the compound of Tajai. So I ask her, where are you coming from? She says, I'm an orphan, I don't have where to go.
Just a random girl?
A random person. I get put home. I meet Kaunda, orphan I bring into my house.
But how were you making money at the time then?
I was just hustling, and there's a place in Stage 2 called Simsokwe. Simsokwe. They used to shock a goat meat.
Okay.
You know where, Posha's Paddy Blues?
Yes.
Ijayonse badadivanga. You know?
Oh, okay.
Penze bai kulu. A lot of people in Lusaka know that. So I remember my dad had built some fleet of shops. So because of this thing of vachi blue bangenamo, so my mother said, I won't fight over these vinto. So let the relatives do their own. And I remember praying and telling Elohim to say, I don't have anything to do. I don't know how I'll take care of the kids. I had to get money and tithe. Questie. Nabatenga bana napereka ndrama nati, you are the father to these children. Eni jakeni yakwe bati bana wapisha pa bedland pa private wateba wenso kwani solipira. Baleka wateba obafa and they are being chased from school. Do you know how painful that is?
Can you imagine?
Babwera bana na mabagi we. So I say to myself, Mulungu, help me. I've never, from grade 12, I become a housewife and I don't even know where to start from. Nizashita bwanji Mulungu ananipasa nzeru. Sinaendepo mochitira maneos, but my mom used to plait hair. So tenzo punzira ko benaliri bena unis pomba masis and things like that. And that's where Elohim took me to the things of beauty.
That's God now.
When I asked,
okay.
Elohim is a Hebrew name because God is just a title, you know that, right? His name is Elohim or Yahweh.
I want us to speak about
Yahuwah, Yahusha, Hamashiach, and things like that.
Later, carry on.
So now Elohim gives me knowledge. He teaches me how to plot through the dreams. He teaches me how to put nails. He taught me a lot of things, even how to drive. I learned from my dreams.
Is it?
Yeah.
Kulota
uyenza motoka around about in kutening so I see that in my dream.
Wow.
Even swimming, I never learned kunyaya. I dreamt from my dreams. I learned how to swim in my dreams. Kulibiretu kwenzeka damu paja between Kaunda Square stage 1 and stage 2 kaja ka bridge ka. Sinenzo ziba liri ndenzo indako.
Kwendo nyaya
muja munyansi nesinenzo vizi bako phone save. So if you tell a person who is not spiritual, though you know they giggle and things like that, but I have learned a lot of things from how I talk to Elohim and the things he showed me. Nezo faka malashes nikafaka muntu malashes auna monga naenda po kuskulu kwenzeribe mwana mai. That's why I told you I took my father's brain. You know,
business.
it's things that a lot of things, even things that I do now as Millie Beauty products. Some came as a prophecy. Millie Beauty products came as a prophecy, but I would dream things on what to do. Even just the Sarah juice. It was something like a revelation. It just goes hand in hand with everything that I do now.
Okay, so we'll speak about your business. So after that, now you started adopting children.
Naenda nabapempa banko banga pali property ate banga banipasako ka shop. Nilibe mpando zosebenza nazo nenzo chitani kaenda kuba naona bakazi chenzo pampa naitengako almost 10% drama please na papa tamfuna kocha ben drama ya bread nigulire bana vakuti I will carry them from the bar mipando kulibe na tenga kampando kuba mabaketi ya benzo faka kuja kuma toilets yakutichane I would get that liri tasukira bantu mutu bakalipira liri azatamanga enda pa stage 2 market agula tuma shampoo and things like that we made.
Then you started.
Then now I started adopting children. Elohim just started bringing anybody from left, right, and center to my house and to my sister's house, and we are just accommodating like that. We don't like to see a person suffer.
So how many kids did you have that you're taking
At the
care
time,
of?
I had about 8 kids in my house at the time.
In total?
Yes, now I have 25.
Right now? 25. Can you explain that? Because
I have my late sister's children. I have my late uncle's children. I have had a person from the orphanage, Helen. She's now working in Livingstone. I had Memory also, who didn't have her parents. I had Kaunda, you know. So bakula benangwambo sebenza chokera and things like that. Yeah, that has been my life.
That's really nice of you, Mary. I'm sure God is watching, and
that's why
you know,
maybe sometimes I feel even when business is hard, Elohim is able to put something on the table for us to eat.
Let's speak about your business.
Yeah.
Millie Beauty Products.
Yeah.
I remember there's a time that you had shops almost everywhere.
Yeah.
So from the salon, that's how now you started.
From the salon, I became so depressed to the point where my sister Lily and Eunice, first of all, I lost my sister Eunice because we used to work, the 3 of us at the salon. So she passes away suddenly, and you know, all these things are happening, and I'm thinking to myself, what's going on? I became so depressed, Kenny, to the point where oh my God. I wouldn't talk to people like that because Lily has always been my very close, even if we used to play the 3 of us as sisters, but Lily is somebody that I was close to very much, and I would look at her, I look at the responsibilities also she had, and also the responsibilities I had, and I became so depressed. I'm looking at my mom. You know, she was just diagnosed with cancer, breast cancer. And she'll go in the hospital, UTH, I'll stay with her for a month. And I just started drinking.
You started drinking?
Yeah. And I started smoking cigarettes. It's not something I'm ashamed to talk about.
Yeah, of course, it's reality.
You know, and I have responsibilities at home.
Yeah, the children.
Aside from my own children, I have these other responsibilities that Elohim gave me. And there was a man, a servant of the Most High, that said, actually, Lily came and told me to say, Babandok Sakirani. And I remember that time I had come from, I was partying with the people that I met along the way. You know, I've been through a lot. I've been through a lot.
I'm sorry, mate. It's I think that hearing your story, it makes me even appreciate the person that you are.
Yeah, so tezoenda ikeni. Because mzanga izokondoenda na wazungu. I didn't tell you this story after my husband died. I went through a lot at the village. We went to marry. And to the point where I stopped talking to the relatives of my husband because of the treatment that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And I vowed never to date somebody black because it was just in my head, you know. It's in my head. Like everyone is, I married young anyway.
But you thought, you said blacks, they have a problem?
Yeah, they have a problem because I grew up my
you.
mom first of all, and then it's me now. You get my point. And she was dating these white folks, and you know when you go, I had colored friends who say, "Oh, ipepako, iyopwanya pakata." So kwenze cigarettes where you press, it's a downhill switch. Then they would give me apwanya pakati boy pepako, kosomola, things like that, and became a habit. From smoking when you're drinking to now smoking when you're not drinking. You know, and the pastor remembered me because I had met him past him so when they're running a saloon. I would spot somebody. I had that discernment where you call someone and say, "Ndimwe pastime."
Yeah.
Then makusaziba bwanji when ati mzimwanga wanuza ndimwe pasta, and we got along like that, you know. So after now, I'm in this phase of the drunkenness and the way people used to just say, "Happy we do." Would you want your husband to die? The first love. No. You know, mukamba chani. And you know, that kicked me away. And that's the thing that I don't like about Christianity. Because you judge. You don't know what a person is going through. You just judge. You know? You don't look at seeing somebody edifying their work, even when they are wrong. You are supposed to, like, let me wear this. I look
meaning
crazy.
if you promise me not to lose your thought, we can take a break.
I take a break.
I want the ladies to touch you up so that
let
you
them do that because he's a but This
is the Kenny T one-on-one podcast. Our guest today is Auntie Millie. We were speaking about is it bishop or pastor?
Prophet Banda.
Prophet
Samuel
Banda. When he found you, when you met,
when he found me, I was a mess.
Mm-hmm.
I was drinking every day, and drinking every day to the sense where you ask for beers with my sister Lily and you.s. And when a person buys for you, because my sister at the time my sister doesn't drink Lily, you know, so she would make sure because of her big legs, sometimes men will just say, chisumaya. So, bazamgulira moba, azan pasako, batigulira bonse, nija type yako bati, ngatifsina konde chabe. Zakutengani gundi so that mwamuna dashes on. Azamgulira bagulira in my sister banga, you know, such an arrangement. She wants everybody feel she's like a hen with eggs. Afna alliance ankale feeling yeah. So bakagula bagulian mo by just mwaenda mwachinja nisa kuba, you know. It was rough.
So then now let's talk about
So now the pastor comes in because Lily met the pastor. And I met him first. I told him I passed, and he said, "How did you know?" I say the spirit of discernment, even if I'm crazy like this, you know, because I was painting my hair. And at the time I did my legs, my tattoo, conse. You know, I had forgotten who I was. I stopped praying and things like that. But he told me he went back to Malawi, came back after 2 years, and came to look for me specifically. And Lily came to look for me because we used to live about 5 blocks away from each other. Yeah, so Lily comes and tells me, "Babanda okusakirani, Luandwani uzati bakufunani bali kunyumba kwake." That's how we went to Banda's, where Banda had, kwe banafikirira. Bakamba bwanje msungu, kwe banafikirira. Babanda kwe banafikirira.
Halo, muchizungu babanda kwa banafikirira, kamba bwanje.
I came to send my diringa nayo show.
Okay, but Tamvela. Kwa mimi naona fikirira I failed to figure out how to put it mchizungu.
Yeah. So anitenga lidi tieni amake Devi. Anidonsa mina mandonsamo. Taenda kuja baniona chabe babanda. You are a very big woman. Nichani mwandu wa mulungu mwaona pochani palini. Nikuona pamo. And then I'm seeing you building. I'm seeing you having shops all around the world. Your name will be known all around the world. Right?
Namulamba from the previous day.
Yeah, because once you are like that, you turn into a vampire where you are sleeping the whole day, you want to go out in the night. So he tells me that, and he prays for me, and I go home. And I look at my dressing table, because when the word of Elohim reaches your life, it begins to grow, If it finds fertile ground, it begins to grow, whether you like it or not. So I started thinking about it. He spoke positively in my life. He didn't judge me. He didn't see what I was doing. He spoke positively. So from there, I'm thinking, what is this man seeing? I looked at my dresser, I mixed a certain oil, and I was dating, mzungu patainija. Nimu, so neze naka smartphone, vijavaso ndiye mwe nakopera. Diri ati ya makete vimoneka grey, blackam. Wena imwe gulankoni mafuta, ni chaka ineze na. Soko nezeka. Isnezo sfaka konzelu like that. So I started bathing na onekako kaskini kawama ndiye mwena. Because growing up neze na low self-esteem.
Yeah.
Neze na mapimpo wafana wanga tukambana day mapimpo monga vitumbua. Ero chitumbua uchizi kachiponya pasara. Machoka tuja. Yeah, so bani uzavama cosmetics and me being known around the world, I said, let me buked myself, and I did, and I posted on social media, and going live Zambia. Social media you know what I mean. So that's how I started going live on Facebook. But then that was
my products.
Yeah. That was just a way of Elohim just transitioning my life to his word, trying to put me up there. And I remember mo. He was the first person who ever bought me cars. So, I get in my car, and before I get in the car, Nizaanza branch greatest road. How? Since wanamoko nekera paja roundabout na go na mwana mai. Clear picture kunirangiza mnamoko nekera paja roundabout greatest road paka town. When I woke up, I told my sister Lily, I said, before I had a driver, I said, Lily, I'm going to drive this car. Market Dave. Things that I saw in my dream, I exercised them, and I went to town, and it was okay. The same way I saw it. And I parked. The first place I ever went to was Southgate Mall. Kulimatao. Mu Freedom Way, naindo parking achabe moto kapanja kutiji patamak paja. And I started doing trading from the streets. I was there for 3 years. And mu second year, third year, I think that's when I hired a driver, who is still my driver now.
So per Freedom Way, what were you doing?
I was selling my products. Of course, it was online, but then people would ask me, nilipa Southgate monga ulipa mozo na batin shuripa street. And at that time, I remember I used to work with my brother. My brother was at CBU, and then my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. The one I said I was in hospital with her. Yeah. So the breast cancer was actually eating her up. She refused to go for chemo. So then now, midst of everything that's going on, I said I wasn't going to, my brothers, when I was here, Kuchelston, so I got my mom and I started living with her. And brother wanga nae, kachinga dwala namvera mpepo make Devi nati wokumwa maningi tumoba those tuma small to GD. No, it wasn't GD power, not my backpack yacha kwenze twina
backpack in China
diri kunimoba bwanjuja tuja twenza okumwa kachinga royal I don't remember but kwenzeri kenango
But
akumwa yeah yenze ni royal ya umlika so then after that kambatina dwala nat pena you know wamwatu amene tuja I didn't take it seriously so we went I dropped them Johnson my driver now went to drop him home I switched off my phone, you know, and I slept. The following morning, my mom is there because Kachinga was my mom's favorite. You know, mu family loko iwo. Muli wangati ken?
Yes, Chilima ngati manja pa chilasala 6.
Bamai bako favorite ni mutiro kwa tate bako.
I think ndikufunza kwa wena because banga kambe monga ndini.
You know, you people that kuma nkala ti uzimvera ati bamai bako ndawo. Monga my other children will tell me that David is my favorite.
Yeah, it's there.
Kezia will tell me Yona Mami is your favorite and things like that, you know. So Kachinga passed away. And Kachinga passes away. Bamai badwala ken. Nsawa uzabwanji wanachoko cheke saveri. Mwana, my brother dies. Nisebenza naye. Bankala kunyumba ya bamai. Kuli maliro, kuli bamai. Bantu atita na mkauza bamai banaliri. Bazafa, basien.
So you buried without...
And after 2 weeks, my mom died.
Did she know? Sorry about that. So, on the business side, Auntie Miri, sorry to hear that. On the business side.
Nisebenza pa street Kenny. Brother wangafa. Ibe uloko ini. I have to look for money for the funeral. When I go home, Mama, I am smiling. You understand? I'm smiling and getting awake was okay. I go in the bathroom, I get ice and put on my eyes. Evening, I'm going to the funeral. I find my sister there. We are mourning and my mother is at home.
So,
this is... I will leave the funeral house. Naenda pa Freedom Way panja. Naguli sana tuma mundu agula makabeji. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right, Auntie Mary. So, so the business after Freedom
After
Way,
burying my brother dies 2 weeks later, my mom dies. And I continued hustling on the street and Lani napeza koka space tabo sharing up upstairs baja. Brother wangali ku university. School fees.
yeah.
I've got my own children and those adopted children. Elohim took care of us. He did. And that's where I continued with Millie Beauty products. And it grew so much. I'm known all around the world. I remember going to Malawi, Blantyre, and the hostesses calling me, Auntie Millie, are you Auntie Millie from Zambia? I'm like, yeah, you know. I people call me and say, went in a Nigerian shop in the U.S., in the U.K., they were talking about you and things like that.
So let's speak about your viral moment on social media.
A viral moment, so when...
what happened the time that you really blew on social media?
Well, I used to do Malango, you know Malango for because I stayed for 11 years in my marriage. So I knew to my things, Vija, you know, so I would advise people on how to take care of their marriages. But of course, you know, at that time I'm being wild at the time, you know, the drinking and the smoking and things like I never did drugs, by the way.
Okay.
You know, so ukamba be virivonse wayona
social media.
Uvikamba be ro mwamine viriri. So in my mouth there was no sieve. Kusieving of into, and that's the time I went viral. Yeah. To the point where I was meeting that uja wina ngoja ndishini kudana 800,000 followers going to 900.
Who are you talking about? Your ex-husband?
So
how did you meet?
Naenda kuba
Apa pamunalia
pamnali pasosho pali yenze yabachirufya tayari at the time nakapeza kamwamuna kaoneka bwino kaindishini modizi
na Frank tayari.
Oh, not chilufya tayari. Frank tayari.
Yeah. It was a really nice place though.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Oh,
I used to go there
Frankie. I mean, oh, he's honorable now.
Yeah, honorable.
Honorable. I used to make my day, that one. Miriam, and they were very close with my son at the time because my son was doing law. So in Zompasa got my advice, and that's how I met Ujamundu.
So you met there?
Yeah, ninaona more potential nataka.
But when you went there, what did you go there for?
Life kazambo vala vintu vo nangenesa mondrama muli Ujamundu.
Okay, let's start from the beginning. So you went to the pub to do what? Were you meeting somebody?
Ndishimanje mwamna wanga waku UK mzungu antumira drama inzo ntumira every did enzo ntumira pa 1 pa 3 5 month mzungu waku UK uyo enzo enda naye after I think 3 years after take David Bath ndienzo nchita sponsor lifestyle yanga. You know, enzo running aka NGO kuma mwamene muno mzambi madeota. So you know enzo shtaka ntumira drama njitwano again.
So baba mangena maenda kuba.
Kangena muja ndine sponsor kayo ndine Mili Beauty. So I go in there na kaona cha beka ilikala inango sometimes enzo ntoba menso. Bwana langa na ntoba menso nataka ngakachinjile ko life, you know.
Chama mixing muja.
Yeah, and enzo ziba who I was. You know, so upeza tinga tulibevo chita vili vonse oziwa teaching celebrity ero chichitika. What do you do?
So va first vemuna kambisana veze vichani.
Namuza nati nakukonda. Kaineze nanzeruza ma white men. I like you.
And then?
Kapwa kaindolemba namba yake pa chibumba. Pa kapepa.
Pamene yapo
Kanpasa next day nakashita invite na pakegi. Pa East Park. Naendoka gulira mo. Then from there it took off. For me, I was in love. I was in love.
How long were you guys together?
For 6 years. 6.
Without getting into too much detail, how would you describe your marriage at the time?
You know, Ujamuntu siningamkambire voipa. Voipa vamine ngamkambire was addiction.
Okay.
And trust me, Kenny, ninae sanangene samon drama to si Ujamuntu kutiankale bwino. Enzo shtaka inda muria baka choka. What alina muvidi? Noti muvidi wamne balangiza hapa manja ati muvidi. Alina muvidi Ujam guys. And amaoneka bwino. I tried na tumwamuna kairi, you know, anpereka na ku civic center chavo cha
mwenda wasaina chikwati.
You know, tasaina vikwati uko na mpereka ko huku nezo esa kuli basi atwambo naenda koloko 3 times. Palasi naenda nezo lipira ndrama zambiri. Grocery yenze ni heavy duty just to see him, the best out of him. I wanted to see the best. Kulieve.
Are you formally divorced? Or you're still married?
Karibe kuenda but namuza nati nifuna vija vipepa kaidenza na bisa certificate.
So it's not. Okay, so let's talk about the new dude. Sugar.
Shushu.
Huh?
Shushu.
What's happening? Tell us about Sugar.
You know, I was at a point of breaking, to the point where social media just would do everything, and I went into prayer and fasting for a very longest time until I met somebody. I said, Elohim, give me somebody who is after your heart. Somebody who is going to speak and preach the word to my life. And then I met Prince Emmanuel. You know, his name is Prince. You know, he's American by birth and growing up like that. So he's a person, you remember people were making fun of me, Kenny. But I am sure because I use Hebrew names. So here's a guy on a dating site that I meet and says, how are you, daughter of Zion? He believes in the same Hebrew names that I call upon.
Yeah.
You know, and at first we're just friends like that. He would preach to me the word, tell me about the Hebrew names and the feasts and holidays and things like that. I think we need. Can I call him? You ask him.
Yeah, if we can have a chat with him, that would be good.
Yeah,
I'd like to say hello.
Okay, no problem. Kenny, he's a sweetheart.
There is a phone.
Thank you.
So Pemutu Mapa. So how are you managing the long distance?
A long distance. He came from America. Just how long did we say? 3 months into the relationship, he came from America to see me.
Do you want him also to go on social media, or you want to keep it private?
He's not a social media person, but he's done everything that he could, you know, just trying to support me and things like that. He's an elder at the church.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so
you met on a dating site?
Yeah, a dating site, and then he was preaching to me. You know, we never discussed vo bandana ijaya is the ex Johnny. No, we never discussed that. It was all about scripture. Scripture. Him teaching me about scripture and things like that.
Are you dialing? Are you calling?
Yeah, I am calling him right now. So right now he's at work. So he's somebody that nkadandaula mwana ku university afuna vaso, because my firstborn child is studying law at UNILAS. My second is studying medicine at UNILAS.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. My other sister, my late uncle's daughter, is going to study business administration. No, not business, IT. Frank also wants to get into university. So he's been providing for them, including Kenan and Sarah. He provides for all of us at home. Even in the tough times of where we are going through a global economic crisis, yeah, he's been there. Yeah, every week he would remember that we have grocery. Hey, babe.
Hey, shalom.
Shalom.
Hey, I really can't talk right now.
Yeah, but Kenny wants to ask you a few questions because
even just one.
We're on the podcast and we're having this conversation. So, yeah. 30 seconds. Here you go. Kenny, here.
Hey, Chief, how are you?
Hey, shalom. How are you doing?
Good, Prince. Thanks a lot for taking my call. So I'm just having a chat with Millie here. And, she's just telling us about your relationship and all of that. So it's nice to hear. I don't know if you have something to say really quickly since you're busy.
Stay focused. Press towards the mark of Yahweh and stay focused. No matter what other people say or think about you, remember we don't have the keys to heaven and hell. Did I throw you off?
Yeah, I'm trying to process, but I'm sure Millie has picked everything up.
That's where we at in life. We have to stay positive. We have to go forward together. I don't see anything negative, but we did hear negative stuff. But you have to look beyond that. Marion is a beautiful, nice person. We're trying to work not just a relationship, but we are trying to build a foundation, not just to make us look good, but to help bring up the children to be more positive and more solid and more strong.
Wow. Prince, thanks a lot. I look forward to meeting you the next time you're in Zambia. We've heard great things about you, and yeah. All the best. Thanks for taking the call.
Yes, sir. Shalom.
Say bye.
Okay, baby. Shalom. I'll talk to you. Yeah. Okay. So that's Sugar.
Oh, such a nice guy.
Yeah, he is. He has the fear of Elohim in him.
So you understood everything he talked about.
Yeah. Yahweh is the Most High above, so he puts that all the time.
So in a nutshell, what was he saying?
He says we need to put everything. Life and death is not in our hands; it's in the hands of Yahweh.
Auntie Millie, for that young girl out there that probably would relate to your story, what word of encouragement and inspiration would you actually give her right now?
Okay, to the married people, in your marriages, be focused. I lost my husband at a very tender age. I wouldn't have gone through all this if I had known how to work hard for myself while Happy was still alive. You get my point. And also, do not feel like when everyone is telling you you're too late for this, or and things like that, take your time. Because what led me into problems was thinking that let me jump out of my own skin to get married and things like that. Make sure before you go and start staying with a person or getting married to someone, wamuziwa msango zake zili bwanji. If not, inkala mamisu uzafa. To the young girls, I grew up a virgin because I listened to what my mother used to tell me. Mwamuna zangwira bwanji bero. In my mind, my mother told me they'll impregnate me. A man and a woman can never be friends. That's how I grew up. So even to the young girls, know how to dress up, know how to be respectful to people. Listen to your mother and father because it's one of the commandments from the Bible, and then give respect to elders. Futi, just trust in Yahweh. Read your word every day. It will direct your path, as the scripture says.
You go to church, you take the kids to church with you every Sunday?
Yeah. I used to take them to the Sabbath school and things like that. But now it's deep. When I start talking about the Hebrew feasts and holidays, I don't celebrate Christmas. I don't do Valentine's no more. I don't do New Year. I don't do that. So there's a lot of research. I have a few questions about Christianity, how it came about and things like that. So I am still in research and I'm learning a lot.
So our previous guest actually left a question for you. So what we usually do on the show is when we interview you, we'll allow you to ask a question to the next guest. So you have to answer yours and then you pick a question for the next guest.
Okay.
So the question that was picked, that was asked to you by our previous guest is, what advice would you give your 13-year-old self?
My 13-year-old self, I would advise, listen to your mother, listen to your father. Do not steal, because some children in the homes, they get sweets from their mother's wardrobes or whatnot. I used to get frizzies from the fridge and squeeze them up and put the plastic behind the fridge. No, that's something. Yeah. So don't do that. It's wrong. Yeah. So stay focused and listen to your mom and dad.
And to me,
they're the best advisors.
1, 2, 3. Which number are you picking? And then I'll read out the question for the next guest.
3.
3. So question 3 is, what is the most challenging decision you've ever made? So this is for our next guest.
Okay, cool.
Auntie Millie, I'd like to thank you so much for coming on my
Kenny.
podcast.
Thank you.
It was real, it was touching, and I had to be strong because I'm a host of the show.
Thank you.
Can you imagine if the both of us were crying, what would happen
I
here?
would have fainted 3 times, actually.
Regards to the kids at home.
Thank you.
And
so much.
I hope to meet Prince when he comes here.
Yeah, I'll bring him here. I will. Yeah. Am I doing the American accent right now?
I don't know.
I will bring him here.
It's rubbing onto you, I can see.
I will bring him here.
We'd like to thank our guest, Auntie Millie. It was a great show. I hope you heard her story attentively, and I hope you got inspired because she inspired me. Thanks for watching. We'll be back again next week.